All right, here we are again for another episode of Smarty Pints. Got Alex, Graham, and Chris. Chris works here at the store, Brew and Grow. You might have seen him in our last video of explaining the pre-boil gravity. He was waving at everybody in the background. Couldn't make out his face because he's all shadows back there, but this is the guy. Okay, so today we're going to explain what's going on back here. And that is a sour mash.
Sour mash, yes.
Because what type of style are you making?
Going to do a Berliner Weiss today.
And none of us have ever done one.
Yep.
And so this is going to be an interesting experience. We're not going to show you the boil or anything like that. We're just going to explain to you how Alex is doing it. Because we're doing it on, Alex is doing it on his rig, and he's going to explain the whole thing. How do you do it, Alex?
Well, first off, I think everybody's excited as I am about spring hopefully being here. So I thought, what better way to ring in spring than with a nice refreshing Berliner Weiss. I don't know if anybody out there has had one before. It's a wheat beer. As the name suggests, it is a Berlin beer, at least it hails from Berlin. And it is sour, really low gravity, averaging about 3.8, I guess. And it requires, as the name implies, it being a sour mash. So that's what we are doing today. I guess it requiring a sour mash is kind of a lie because there are many ways you can go about doing a Berliner Weiss. You can do a regular mash, regular boil, and then ferment it with lactobacillus. Let the bacteria do their job. You can do what I'm doing today by doing a sour mash. What that is you do your normal mashing process. Keep the mash in the mash tun, do not louder it. Let it cool down and reintroduce some grain into the mash after it's cooled down, meaning consensus is between 100 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit. As you guys may or may not know, all grain, all malt, has tons of bacteria and stuff living in it.
We have about 3 pounds here.
3 pounds, yes. Including lactobacillus. That's what gives the sourness to the sour mash. In order to kind of kickstart that, it's not just 3 pounds of ordinary malt in there, that's 3 pounds of acidulated malt, which in essence has already gone through the souring process, so it kind of gives a kickstart. Also, lactobacillus thrives at low pH levels, so that'll help bring the pH of our sour mash down. One of the problems about the sour mash is not only do the lactobacillus like that environment, so do acetobacter and other funky bacteria that can make your beer turn into rancid, baby, vomit, puke, nastiness.
I don't like that. How do you keep it from doing that?
Hopefully we can. In theory, the way that I'm going to try and do that today is, I guess, threefold. First off, I pre-boiled my mash water to drive off oxygen because acetobacter and other bad bacteria are aerobic, whereas lactobacillus is anaerobic. So if I drive off the oxygen, it'll hopefully give our lactobacillus a leg up on the other guys.
Nice.
Secondly, lactobacillus, from my research, really thrives at 126 degrees. So instead of doing a sour mash by holding it around 100, where all the other guys can get some traction, I'm going to be doing this a little hotter, 126. Hopefully that's in the prime spot for the lactobacillus and not the other guys. And thirdly, when we're doing the sour mash, I'm going to cover the mash bed with some...
Oh yeah, Chris, why don't you bring over the cart?
Yeah, bring that. With some saran wrap to hopefully prevent air from getting to the mash. And then I'm also going to purge the mash tun with CO2. And, can we see this? Yeah, we can.
Oh yeah.
I have this nice heating blanket here, and I've got a heating pad. So I'm going to put the mash tun on the heating pad, wrap it in the heating blanket, plug it all into our trusty Johnson Controls A419, set it to 126, and let it go for the next 2 days.
It's actually got a temperature setting on it.
It does not. It has low, medium, high.
So how do you keep it?
I just tested high, and with my thermometer probe it got to about 130 degrees. But because this is going to be plugged into the A419, I'll just set that to a lower temperature. So
Aha, it's going to regulate it.
Exactly.
Just like your heating element.
Exactly.
Okay, so there you go. For all you people who were about to say, how the hell is he going to do that with a heating pad, just like I did? Temperature controller.
Yeah, and also some people might be wondering, well, why not just keep the room's tube on and recirculate it the whole time and set that to 120?
Yeah, why?
Because I figure that's going to run the risk of just aerating the hell out of it.
Aha.
So I want to keep as much oxygen away from there as possible while maintaining the temperature, so I figured this was the best way. Fingers crossed.
Fantastic. All right, so you explain the mashing process, then you're going to boil it, and then what are you going to do?
Oh, well, another reason why I chose this method as to the just fermenting it with lactobacillus is because that takes a long time. If you ferment with the lactobacillus, it takes upwards of 3 months, sometimes 4 months, to really get those desired levels of sourness that you want in a Berliner Weiss. So this way, it's only going to be a couple days of a mash, and then afterwards you just boil and ferment as normal with a clean strain of yeast. I'm going to do half of this 10-gallon batch with German ale and the other half with a Kolsch yeast.
Oh, nice.
And then another benefit also is that way bacteria is not in the cold side of your brewery. Bacteria are hard little buggers to get rid of, so if they jump from one carboy to another, you could have a beer unintentionally soured. So this way, it's going to get boiled off and sterilized and clean, so we should hopefully keep the bacteria on the hot side of the brewery and not on the cold side.
Sounds like a plan. All right. So you have it in a nutshell how to do a sour mash, and Berliner Weiss is the style you want to use it for, perhaps, and that's how you go about doing it.
Oh, yeah, a couple other little tweaks too is the Berliner Weiss, since it's a light-bodied beer, refreshing beer, do a low temperature mash. Today we're going for 148, get more conversions, lower body. So just throw that little tidbit in there in case anybody wants to try and recreate it. And please feel free to message me on the network and I can share my recipe and or other tips, tricks, stats with you.
Sounds good. Well, I learned something today. I think Chris learned something today, and I hope you learned something today. And if you want to learn anything else, or if you have any other questions, leave us a comment on this video. Or you can go to the Homebrew Network on Facebook, leave a question there. And your third way of leaving us a question is go on to www.thehomebrewnetwork.com, go to the Contact Us page, and leave us a message. And we'll put it in a video just for you. Cheers, everybody.
Prost.